very pleasant evening to you out there. Thank you so much for joining us on another edition of the program National Talk on Equa Television International. My name is Joyce Jakada. Tonight we beam our light on the appeal court's verdict. We have been discussing all the issues and the reactions that have been coming out from the court. And you will recall that on Sunday, the Court of Appeal, headed by Justice Efreda, actually sacked the governor of Plateau State, talking about Governor Caleb Mutfwang. And in Lagos State, the appeal court upheld the victory of Sanwo-Olu. In Nasarawa State, the court upheld the victory of Governor A.A. Sule. And in Kano State, there seems to be some controversy. There seems to be some inconsistency. And in recent time, we saw those controversies are emanating from the judgment given by the Lordship of the Appeal Court. And for a lot of people, they have described the situations using different terms, while some people accused even the court of inconsistency. Some pointed at incompetence. Some talked about even the stagnation and other issues. But on National Talk tonight, we'll be joined by Professor Elias Nankap Lamle, who is going to be giving perspective on this issue. Good evening and welcome to National Talk.
Good evening, viewers. I hope all is okay with you.
Well, this is the situation we have found ourselves in Plateau State immediately after the governorship election and the pronouncement of the winner by Independent National Electoral Commission. We saw a lot of celebration on the street. We saw how people were actually celebrating the victory of the governor, not disregarding that there were some party members or some people that were aggrieved with the outcome of that particular election, which made them to actually tour the path of the court. But at the tribunal level, we saw how that the court upheld the victory of Governor Caleb Mutfwang. In Nasarawa State, the Independent National Electoral Commission actually announced the governor A.A. Sule as the winner. At the tribunal level, David Ombugadu of the PDP was actually declared winner, but the appeal court judgment in another tweet says upheld the victory of engineer A.A. Sule. In Lagos State, they upheld the tribunal judgment affirming the victory of the governor Sanwo-Olu. But in Kano State, there seems to be some form of controversy, while at the tribunal we saw how that they disregarded the victory of the governor, but the appeal court judgment also upheld that decision of the tribunal. But in the CTC form, there's some paragraph that showed that the judgment was in favor of Governor Abba Yusuf. So a lot of people have pointed to the inconsistency. Some people accused even the judiciary of some corrupt practices and all of that. In fact, the ICPC said something is wrong with that judgment. And you will recall that in their report, sometimes in 2020, the ICPC pointed that most of the lawyers are responsible when it comes to corrupt practices. They pointed fingers to the lawyers being mostly responsible for all of that. And some people say investigation should be done. But this is the situation we found ourselves in. What is your reaction? How did these judgments come to you?
I mean, you look at everything, you discover that there are a lot of state-managed issues going on.
Wow.
Very many state-managed issues going on. I mean, the first question we will ask is that, why did the federal government have to build appeal courts in different places? And then when it comes to the issue of appeal court, you move everything over to Abuja. Why must you move to Abuja? Why do we have the appeal court built in those places? It's not to decentralize judgment so that judgment can be done at the right point, at the right time, so that things can be eased off in Abuja. Now, the cost of moving these judgments from the different appeal courts up to Abuja and Lagos actually is exorbitant. And the government accepts the fact that it's exorbitant. But why are they doing it? They are doing it because there are some ulterior motives going on in the whole issue. And those alterity is displayed in very many forms. For example, in fact, the alterity built up. It started in the various court and built up with the pronouncement of one of the PDP, one of the members of the APC who said, we know who we know and we have people who we have. And he made that declaration with a boasting. Now the question we'll ask is that not an indictment on the Supreme Court? And in fact, he did not even make mention of the appeal court, because I think to him, maybe, let me postulate, as a scholar I'm allowed to postulate anyway, he might have said, okay, appeal court is my own, it's settled. Now the struggle will be where? At the Supreme Court. So you see, that declaration now gives an impression that there's something going on that is outside the confines of the immediate environment. That is just to give you a whole picture of the whole thing. Now, when you come to the issue of Caleb Mutfwang, in Plateau State is the most dramatic case I would ever talk of. Number one, if you look at the issues that are addressed there, they're not real. Because why? You say, okay, they have no structure. You never knew about the structure before the election. Why did INEC not actually disqualify them? Because the INEC has been given certain degree of power to disqualify candidates when they are not consistent. Am I right?
But
yes.
in this, that is to say the INEC should be responsible for that,
yes.
and not the judiciary.
Not the judiciary. It should be able to. That's why the Constitution and the electoral laws says it quite clearly. Pre-election matters should be dealt with before election. And then post-election matters will be dealt with after election. So now, when you come and talk of structure is about pre-election. I mean, it's a matter of, it's a very small logic. I mean, you don't leave your own house in APC. You now go and look at the house of PDP. And then you have a house, I have a house. And you leave my own house, and I go into a house now to say, let me go and inspect your own house. Is your house doing well? What more of my own house? Because within the APC itself, there is a case currently on in Plateau State that will actually, if the case is true, it might disqualify all the candidates in APC. So the PDP go to that to say, ask, okay, fine, you have a case, so the case, no. The PDP did not go there, so why should APC go and declare that issues on PDP? So that alone has a problem. And then even when they discovered that the issue was already tackled at the lower tribunal, the tribunal said, look, pre-election matters do not matter in this situation, in the post-election. Now they shifted the issue from structures, and they said, okay, at the appeal court level, it should be what? Organizers, those who actually sponsored it. Now, according to the electoral laws, you are not in a tribunal. Whatever you file in a tribunal stands, and you are not to include or describe or check anything out of it again. Why the shift at the level of the appeal court? That is what it was said in the case of the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court said, Atiku, you can't present this document because it wasn't there at the tribunal level. So why present the document now? Now, are we having two different treatments? That someone can present something at the tribunal level, and then come and present a different case at the tribunal level? I mean, at the appeal court level? No, it should be consistent to that. So whatever happened to the president is also happening to the local people.
And I think that is actually what generated a lot of reactions.
Yes.
People pointed to the variation.
Yeah.
I know that at the appeal court level, the three-member panel headed by Justice Afreda reiterated that it is because the PDP lacks structure on the plateau, saying they also citing disobedience to a Plateau State High Court order that dissolved the leadership of the PDP and asked the PDP to go and conduct Congress in 17 local government. But according to that judgment, it is said that PDP conducted the Congress in just 5 local government. And that is to say that you cannot keep something or nothing based on the judgment, and it is on that basis that they said the party that sponsored Governor Caleb Mutfwang lacks structure. And I think the case in Plateau is quite interesting, and a lot of people are actually paying attention to it because it didn't just affect the governor, but about 7 members of the National Assembly have been affected by that. And I'm seeing that some people are already collecting certificate of return, and that is to say that the 7 lawmakers have been disregarded, like talking about Benny Lad, we have the likes of Burgos, we have Simon Mwatkon, even Aga. All of these people are affected, and not just at the National Assembly level, even at the state level.
Yes.
Some of the members are also being affected. Some people talk about the fact that should the court be silent? You just pointed out that INEC actually cleared that. Even before the election, we saw how that the court kept talking about the numbers of the cases that they have at hand, pre-election cases. But INEC actually went ahead to conduct the election. In all of these, I'm really concerned because I've seen citizens that actually went out to vote, like aggrieved citizens talking about, I went out, I voted, and then for as far as they are concerned, this is their mandate being stolen.
Of course.
Who should take the blame? Because I've not even had INEC coming to say, oh, we are taking responsibility for our action. We've not seen any case of anyone being sanctioned or anyone made to face any disciplinary action. But in all of these, at the end of the day, it's more like the citizens being at the receiving end, while their vote is on one side, the judiciary are on the other side. Someone said just 3 people deciding for millions of people. The judiciary on the other side, like making decisions, deciding who wins and who did not win. Like, is something wrong with our recruitment process? who should take the blame in all of this? Because even the one of the advisors of the president, talking about Bayo Anonga, the special advisor on information and strategy, said the PDP should not even blame the presidency or the judiciary, but it should blame itself for what has actually happened to it on the plateau and in other places. Like, what's your reaction to this happening?
Is the PDP an organization that's supposed to now tackle itself and tell itself that this is the rule to do it? It's wrong. PDP should not be responsible for that. It is the first of all, at the judiciary level, the judiciary level has its own restrictions based on what? Based on what the INEC itself gives it. INEC is the first gate that should decide what should be and what should not be. So first of all, the blame is on INEC. INEC should have said, okay, you don't have a reason to go into election, so disqualify. But then when INEC allowed it to go, then of course it means that they have a reason to have, and then even in that, in the so-called judgment that they said, I mean, 3 times PDP actually went and conducted elections at that level. But then people said, okay, fine. The only way we can defeat them, because they know that, of course, no party will ever win in Plateau except PDP. So they said, okay, fine. Let's prepare another thing and see. And the interesting thing to it again, the lawyer that went to court and actually asked that a case should be slugged was even the one that came to PDP now, to APC now, and he's saying that PDP has no structure. So are we not going to ask the Nigerian Bar Association to ask him? Now, are you standing on 2 grounds? Is being a lawyer something that should have integrity or not? If it has integrity, why are you standing on this ground and then you're coming to stand on the opposite ground again? So it means that you knew a lie, you defended a lie, you stood by a lie. That should be. So first of all, INEC should be blamed. That is where it all comes from. Secondly, as PDP, if you knew about this, why did you take it to court before the time of the election? Now the question is, if APC had won the election, would have they taken it to court? No, they would not. It's because they lost. And then they'll now formulate reasons to say, look, okay, this is what we will do to get the case through. Let us try and use whatever. Like what the person that bossed, they said, people we know. So the whole thing is that the judiciary has been indicted that, look, we are working based on the people you know. So you see, the judiciary also has to be blamed. Because the judiciary be told, we are working with you based on people you know. You know. And so that alone has already casted an aspersion on the judiciary. And the judiciary is supposed to be seeing itself alone. Yes, a PDP should have its own blame. Why? Because PDP has its own problem. APC has its own problem equally. All parties have, I mean, human relations is all about problems. So, but then you don't begin to poke into another person's house. It's a very simple logic.
Okay, the legal team of the PDP, after the judgment was passed, spoke about that the appeal court has no business, because most of in the what they base their judgment on, talking about the structure and all of that, because it is pre-election matter. Even though some members of the APC are saying, you brought this upon yourself. We are not even pointing to nomination. Yes, we agree it's a pre-election matter, but this is sponsorship we are actually talking about.
Then and why didn't you bring the sponsorship at the level of the tribunal?
Well, they said what they are banking on is the sponsorship. And you know, section 177 of the Nigeria's 1999 Constitution, section C, spoke about that for any individual that must be fit for the position of the governor must belong to a political party, and the party should sponsor that person. And on that basis, the governor or other members of the National Assembly were not sponsored by the party, because the party does not have
how does the
structure.
Party become a party? The party becomes a party because there's a registration process. The registration gives the party its name. For the fact that you have an internal squabble does not mean, if somebody had come to contest from PDP and say, look, at the level at which we are, I don't understand this should stop, there should be no election, that's understood. But it's not from APC that should go and contest there. So party becomes a party because there are constitutions that follow it. It's registration that took place. There's a lot of other processes that go with it. And that process gave this party the capacity to stand as a political party. On what grounds are you now saying that because they have no structure? No structure on what ground? Structure has been there, that's why they are registered.
Okay.
And then there's no anything countering that. The INEC or whatever registration body has told them you are no more a party.
Okay, let me draw your attention to the case raised about on the PDP's issue about disobedience to court order. We know that Nigeria operates on a democratic system, and the judiciary is part and parcel of the democratic system. Now, in a situation where the judiciary is pointing to disobedience to court order, should the court allow impunity to thrive?
Good. Now, when they saw that there was a disobedience to court order, what did the judiciary do about it? Would they allow it to continue until the time of elections, after the elections are? Would they not have taken action on it now to have those who disobeyed it prosecuted? That they wait until after election. So you see, the process of waiting until after election is because it's putting the cart before the horse. Using it only at the convenient time. They should have taken a stand, the court should have taken a stand and said, look, hey, based on this, the PDP they need to be locked. The court has the right to say they should be, the state should take them and lock them. And they can do it. Why didn't they use it before this time? Why did they use it after the election? Why didn't they use it before the election? So you see, that it shows that there is already a pre-planned issue that has to do with the issue of the PDP being seen as to be disobedient to a court order. Even after that, there are many instances that the PDP went and actually took what they said, and then they took the action. It's just that some people say, okay, fine, the action is not according to what we want, so they went to court again. And so each time they went to court, there was an action taken. And that's why people stood on this ground. And the question is that, okay, let me even ask you for the appeal court. How come other states were having 2-3 different places in terms of the panels that were dealing with the cases, and Plateau had only one panel? One panel. Why one panel for Plateau? Why not other states also? Why not give 2, 3, 4, 5 panels to Plateau like you gave to other states? Why are you giving one panel? Is it that that's constituted because, okay, now let me tell you one thing. It is a reality that the chief of the appeal court is from Plateau. And of course, he comes from a place where the governor, who has an interest in the whole thing, comes from. And we know the system of power. We're not accusing anybody, but we're saying that these pointers already have shown that there will be some parochiality in the whole issue.
Okay, but again, at the lower court, it is said that it is the PDP that took itself, some members of the PDP that took the PDP to the court, saying that we were not carried along during the Congress. Do you not see that it is, some people say, oh, the PDP brought this upon herself. Do you see personal interests causing all of this issue? Because if there was obedience to the court order, if there was none of all of these issues that the court is banking on, then I don't think we would be where we are as a state or at this point. Do you not think that some of the members of the PDP actually caused the problem, or personal interest played out in all of this?
The whole thing is very simple. PDP disobeyed the court orders. It did. It actually came out, refuted, and gave dates and file numbers and how they were able to follow what the court said. But then they are saying that they did not obey it. And so they are trying to make a card look black so that they can kill it. That's what was done. PDP gave reasons. It gave cases, it gave numbers, it gave dates that they took these issues. And then they obeyed what the court said. So there was no any counter issue after the last one. 3 times that happened. Now you are telling us now they did not obey these court orders. The question is, why did you not take action at that moment? Why would you have to wait? Still stands. Why would you have to wait until after elections? If that was it, then of course you would have taken the court matter before the election. Okay, Mutfang should not go for the election because what? There is no structure in PDP. That is where it's supposed to be. But Mutfang went for election, and of course he had been able to unanimously win his case, and the other members of the PDP won their case on a very fertile ground. Now let me tell you the implication of what's going to happen. The implication here is that the people who actually voted with these people are going to disconnect from the government. So even if you bring a new government, there's a complete disconnect, and government is about people. So when the people have a disconnect because they're not part of the people, what happens? It can lead to an implosion. And that's what Plateau I'm warning against. Plateau can lead to an implosion because they are thinking that it's a very simple. And you know one thing about Plateau that people don't know. Plateau is a cosmopolitan situation where every ethnic group is represented. So whatever happens here can have a ripple effect across the country. 2001, when actually we had the first religious conflict here, so people thought it's going to end up here. But before you knew it engulfed the whole country. So if you allow Plateau to implode, you are allowing the whole country to implode to a certain level. So there should be care. When there's a disconnect between the people and the people in governance, then of course you expect anarchy to take place.
People actually allege issues of interest on the basis of there are some religious or ethnic undertone. Do you agree that? To
a large extent, Nigeria fosters on religion and ethnicity. Yes, Nigeria fosters on religion and ethnicity. And it is, oh my God, it is very wonderful. You find people talking about the fact that, oh, we are Christians or we're Muslims. But let me tell you something. I was surprised I went to Mina. I came across a group of Muslims that their interpretation of the Bible was so beautiful. The Dawa Foundation. The Quran was very beautiful. I did not see any difference with how we interpret the Bible. And the acceptance they gave to Christianity was wonderful. So it's fundamentalism, it's not religion. It's the fundamentals who feel that they have a right to get, and main thing they use is political power. They want to wrestle power so that they can use for their personal aggrandizement. That's what you do with religion. That's to do with personal aggrandizement. That you find out that these people don't even follow the tenets of the religion. So that is one. Ethnicity is also part of it. And ethnicity in this situation is a very, very pathetic issue. Because when you talk about, okay, some ethnic groups are not even ethnic groups, they're just languages. For example, I'll give one example. I'm not against these people. I'm not against them. But the word Hausa. Hausa is just, it's not an ethnic group. Hausa is a language. And language of the Hausa is the Maguza put together with some of the Arabic languages put together that makes the Hausa. So it's a thing that cut across the whole of West Africa. And then you now say, okay, we are Hausa, we are Fulani. Fulani is an ethnic group. Because there's ethno-cultural and there's ethno-religious. So you see, these are issues. So there's religion, part of it, and also religion is actually used as an emblem for canvassing votes, not necessarily as a reality of what these people are living.
Okay, raising concern about issues, anarchy. Yesterday we had conversations still on the appeal court judgment, and some people call and say, if our mandate is not being given to the rightful owner, there will be war and all of that. Though we keep appealing to people, though we know emotions are high, a lot of public opinion out there, but people need to remain calm and peaceful. We can't afford at this point in time to go into war. You're a professor of conflict management and peace studies with the Center for Conflict Management and Peace Studies at the University of Jos. Now, talking about, you just pointed a concern about anarchy. And this is the situation where we find ourselves, a lot of variation. Look at what happened in Kano. While a lot of people just said the courts they are not even sensitive to the emotions of the people. You just gave a rule orally stating that no, this is it, and then a paragraph of the CTC is showing that, oh, it is in favor of the governor, the other one in favor of the APC, and all of that. What can be done to avert the implications that this might cause?
You see, when you say 1 + 1 is equals to what? 2. There are certain indices of injustice that breeds itself automatically anarchy. When there is injustice, then you find out that the people are aggrieved. And when people are aggrieved, we are emotive. We are emotive, we have feelings. And when they are aggrieved, they can do anything. Most especially in institutions where people say, okay, now we actually are for who? We are for Mutfang. And you say, no, it must be Nantawe. Then what happens? Those who are for Mutfang are in majority. Those for Nantawe are in a minority. And then you find out that there will be classical offer, we are for Mutfang, we are for Nantawe. And then there will be that emotion going on. And it leads to what? That's what brings about the anarchy. It's an automatic issue that happens. It is not based on any incitement by anybody. But injustice breeds itself conflict. And the conflict will lead to anarchy in this situation. Now, the only way that we can deal with this issue is to allow justice to take place. The voice of the people, vox populi. The voice of people is vox deo, the voice of God. So you see, in politics, that's what vox populi, vox deo. So the voice of the people is the voice of God. Allow the voice of the people to come and make a decision. Not for some three people who feel that they cannot. They are not superhuman beings. They are not more than the 1 million or 500,000 or 300,000 that went out and voted. So you can't say that they have a right to decide and say, okay, fine, because of some pre-election issues, so we should not say that this man should not be governor and this one should be governor. So once that happens, I am telling you, emotions will take place, and that could automatically burst itself into conflict.
It's really a thing of concern, if you ask me, because we just witnessed Sierra Leone, Liberia just had election. These are countries that Nigeria at some point helped them to maintain law and order. But today, more than 8 months after the election, look at where we are. A lot of variation, a lot of inconsistency and all of that. But I'd like us to just quickly go on a break. And then when we return, the conversation continue on the appeal court's verdict and the reaction so far. Stay with us. We'll be back after the break.
The gospel of Jesus Christ is our Heavenly Father's plan for the happiness and salvation of His children. Equa Television International shares the gospel of Jesus Christ because the world must come to the realization of the power in the atonement of sin through the grace and mercy of Jesus Christ, sharing with the world the message of hope that can clean anyone from sin to enjoy the peace that is in Him. Equa Television International is live 24/7, preaching the message of salvation and truth to the world. Pray for Equa TV. Support Equa TV. Be part of Equa TV. Keep watching Equa Television International.
What does worship mean to you? Who do you worship? Why do you worship? When do you worship? Where do you worship? Join us live on Equa Television as we discuss on the Worship Room every Friday.
We talk about worship, what needs to encourage you to get you to have this relationship with God.
This is enriching, this is life-changing, life-transforming, and it really edifies.
Join us every Friday, 4 p.m. Come and make these conversations with us, contribute, and we know that you're going to be blessed because your life is all about worship.
Thank you so much for staying with us on National Talk. In case you're just joining, we have been looking at the appeal court's verdicts, reactions trailing the judgment that has been passed so far. In the studio, I have been discussing with Professor Elias Nankap Lamle, professor with the Center for Peace, for Conflict Management and Peace Studies. Thank you so much for doing justice to the topic, giving us perspective as well as analysis on that particular issue. A lot of call has been actually made to the judiciary. And by the way, our phone lines are now open for you to call and actually add your own voice to the conversation. People have called on the Supreme Court at this point, especially for the judgments that have been passed. Some of the aggrieved parties have already approached the Supreme Court. The governor of Plateau State has done that, and then the case in Kano, I'm sure they have also headed to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court, as court of public policy, a lot of people have called on the court at this moment to apply due diligence, because whatever decision that they would take that is contrary to the facts on ground is going to be hazardous to even the peace that Nigeria is currently experiencing. Not total peace, of course, because we know some parts of the country are being faced with one forms of insecurity and the order. So it's more like being on a fragile ground, and then taking decisions that are actually contrary to the facts on ground is going to be hazardous. Do you still have confidence on the expected outcome? I've had like the likes of Governor Caleb Mutfwang calling on his supporters to remain calm and saying that even the judgment will not deter him from him focusing on the part of uniting the state, peace, building on peace, and then even progress. But do you see the outcome? Earlier on, you made reference to someone saying, oh, they will know, we know who they know, but they don't know who we know. But are you expecting that the judiciary, as the hope of the common man, like a lot of people will say, and now it's not about all eyes are on judiciary, but all eyes are on the Supreme Court at this moment. What is your expectation of the outcome?
Well, to me, I think it is time for the judiciary, especially the Supreme Court, to prove its capacity. Because they are the last hope now people have already casted aspersions. Like the member of the House Representative has casted aspersion on the Supreme Court already, saying, hey, we will go there. The ultimate end is the Supreme Court. They will know, we know people that we know. So already aspersions has been cast on the Supreme Court. And under normal circumstances, actually in a democratic setting, that kind of person should have been arrested to tell us who they know in the court that has prejudged issue and that they would get the answer. But since they did not, we expect that the Supreme Court should be the last arbiter now of the poor person and come up to say, look, based on these facts, this is what should be. Not to trail the side of what the appeal court did. Because the appeal court took a stand that actually is not right. By so many things that are already shown in the appeal court, that is not right. And apart from that also, the judiciary also has I think it's a Greek or a Latin word said, cor is read and setor. That means that after the cases have been judged, the Supreme Court can call for all these cases judged at the appeal court and review all the cases and make a decision based on what they had there. So they can call for the partners to bring in all the cases to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court can review the cases and make a decision based on facts that are there, not based on assertion. Because you see, the fact is that as a person, you know that history will tell about you. Some of us have seen a lot of things that you see, when they talk about this issue of karma or whatever it is actually reality. I've lived and seen people who once ruled Plateau, who once talked, and when he talks, that time that Babala was the governor, there was a man in this state that when he coughs, the whole of Plateau sniffers. Today, where is he? They are completely not able to get anything right because of what has happened before. Not because of his fault, but because there are certain realities that decisions that you take that affects you. It might even evade you, but go to your children. So at this moment, the Supreme Court should have integrity to say, look, we are going to take these things based on its merit, not based on some degrees of some influence that people have already said, we know you and you know us, but we are going to take it based on its merit. Except in a situation where you are trying to establish a one-system government, a one-party country in Nigeria, where you've made up your mind to establish a one-party country, and Nigeria is too diverse. When you do that, of course, you settle into anarchy. And the anarchy of Nigeria, oh my God, don't take it. We have 190, 200 million people. When they disperse, the whole world must smoother. It's not like that Ukraine we have 65 million, or like Israel, which is some few million, or like Hamas, who has something. This is a country of 250 million people. As a conflict manager, I have read this kind of situation. When it happens in Nigeria, the whole of Africa will destabilize. Because Africa depends on Nigeria for its stability. From the north to the south, and even the whole of the sub-Saharan Africa. So care should be taken not to allow anarchy to take place. This is the time for the Supreme Court to move and say, look, we need to review all these cases. And also it is reality that since there are already indicating forensic evidences showing parochialism, investigate that forensic evidences. Why is it that the leader of the appeal court is from a specific place and that place seems to get favor? Something must be happening. There must be a smoking name that is making that place. So take up this lady, the leader of the appeal court, take her and look at it from every angle that it can be, so that we can come up with justice. Because if you don't come up with justice this time, you're asking for anarchy. At the end of the day, if anarchy takes place, Nigeria is a place that you can be sure that it will be devastating.
Well, I think due diligence at this point is actually required of the Supreme Court, and we hope that the Supreme Court actually look into that. Like I said earlier on, their emotions are high. There are a lot of public opinions out there. While we know that the judiciary does not bank on public opinion, but rather fact, we expect that due diligence is going to actually be applied. In reactions to the recent judgment, some call it miscarriage of justice, and it's particularly the governor of Kano State, Abba Yusuf. He described that as miscarriage of the law. Some people describe it as strange, and for some people, I think that it was a senior advocate of Nigeria talking about Falanas, describing it as, oh, this is actually scandalous, and he even called for the review of the appeal court judgments. Some actually pointed at corruption, incompetencies. Some pointed to the issue of dignity and even integrity on the part of INEC. And even the silence, because the point of change is the point of taking responsibility. And nobody's taking responsibility, nobody's saying anything. And like I said, at this point, emotions are actually high. And let me just speak to the case on the plateau. When you go to social media today, It's like the terrorists have left the physical environment. They
Yeah.
are now on the social media.
media.
You see how brothers that used to eat on the same plate have turned
They don't talk to
enemies.
each other.
Like, you see a lot of bitterness being thrown out there. And when you just think about the future, you wonder where lies the hope, where lies the hope of unity, peace, and actually progress. Because if we are on this line of division, if we are meeting bitterness and hatred, then where is the hope for even the coming generation? And then I'm particularly concerned of the implication of all of this action. You go see how people insult each other, forgetting that in time past, we've seen how that politicians on the media, they come out and point at each other, they insult each other, but you see them dying together. A clear case of former President Muhammadu Buhari, when his son was getting married, it was Atiku that stood as the father. And then at that point, all the opposition parties, you see all of them ably represented at the wedding. And you wonder, I thought yesterday you were insulting each other. But more like the supporters don't think in that direction. And no wonder you see the terrorism they met on each other on the social media. Like, what is your take on that, especially the supporters touring that part?
I want to
See,
put some
in
suggestions.
every conflict, there are foot soldiers. The people who are at the base of the conflict, or who are the undertakers of the conflict, do not even face some of the things that the foot soldiers face. Who gets hungry is not the politician. It is a common man. Who gets killed? I mean, there was a time we did analysis and we discovered not even one son of a councillor is killed in the conflict of Jos. Councillor, talk one of the others. Is the vulnerable, the poor, they are the ones who have the emotions to display, and they are used as foot soldiers. The other ones actually sit behind and they look at them as foot soldiers. But you see, beyond that foot soldiers issue, there's also, I'm a believer in the fact that there's God. And I'm a believer in the fact that judgment takes place even while you are still on earth, not in heaven. So you discover that what you do to other people's children gets to you. That's why you find today, rich people, their children are being ruled by poor people. Poor people's children. So whatever you are emitting out today, know that you are getting people involved. And it is better for you to sit down and eat well in your house than to involve people and get them involved and think that your own children can be taken to America and Britain and all this Western world. I have lived there for many years. I can tell you that living there is not the best. And the children of people who have gone there, look at these poor people. They are already emotively, and it has led to a type of ethnic cleavages in Plateau State. That one ethnic group seems to go to one area, and the other ethnic groups have gone and said, okay, fine, we're against this. And this is exactly what happened in Rwanda. It is two ethnic groups that fought. One said we're for this, one for that. And when that takes place, it is usually very devastating. So it is good for us to understand the fact that already somebody has clearly said he is the one trying and deciding where the judgment should be. That person should be called to order. It should be called to order.
And what's your take on those kinds of politicians that are bent on dividing the people?
The take is very simple. The state must show its power because state is about force. So state must show that I have the capacity to control this kind of people. If they don't show it, of course, you are giving room to others to come up with the same thing. And when they start coming up with something, of course, there's what we call the principle of schismogenesis. Schismogenesis is when people begin to argue. Schism begins to multiply. Schism is schismo, and then genesis is multiplication. When the schism continues to multiply, it reaches a point where relationships completely break down irreparably. And that's where conflict starts. That's where anarchy can set in. That's where most of other things actually destroy. So the kind of schismogenesis that is going on currently. So the state must be able to break that schismogenesis by arresting whoever thinks that is beyond the law and put him in the right place. And then when he does that, of course, he will say, oh, fine. Oh, this thing we say, we can't just speak anyhow. And then why are we not using that power? Just because we feel that some people are beyond touch. And when they are beyond touch, of course, okay, good for the goose is good for the what? The gander.
All right, I would like you to speak to the attitudes of our leaders. Like on the plateau, case study on the plateau, a lot of people have pointed fingers to the leaders on the plateau, like not on the part of unity. And then people have accused leaders of being silent in all of this. Like nobody's speaking about justice, nobody demanding justice. Like people are just, in fact, some people are open. Some of these people just collected money and that's why they are just quiet. Like, what's your take on
the
attitude?
whole thing is poverty culture. What is poverty culture? A situation where you are not able to sustain yourself. In this hard time, a lot of people are looking for food to eat. But if you are somebody who has a vision, you should have already prepared for this hard time before it came. Not by sowing money, by actually taking some decisions to make sure that you are able to eat in your house so that you don't depend on anybody. So you discover that because there is high poverty culture and people have developed a taste that is beyond their capacity, at the end of the day, what they have to compromise to get whatever. When you try to stop, they shit you with money. And when you get money, you keep quiet. So it's poverty culture. That's the whole thing that is leading, because we have poor people, and it is what happens is that in Plateau State, there is a progressively decisive issue to make sure that people are kept poor by the state itself, and also by people around, so that only a few people who have the capacity to access funds can talk. And when they have that power, they have what we call absolute power. And absolute power does what? Corrupts absolutely. And that's why they can open their lips and begin to make the pronouncement about the fact that as if they own people, as if they're demigods. Because of the fact the poverty that is eating up in the state. I mean, most of our leaders today don't even have a vision of what they should eat. They just go, and then when they collect political money, they begin to eat. And when politics goes, they have nothing again. So they will have to become beggars. Most of our leaders are beggars. They are beggars, they keep quiet. I remember when one of the governors, I don't want to mention name, was told, Haba, why not this, why not that? And the man laughed and said, come, let me show you how much I give these people to keep quiet. They do that, of course. And our leaders, in fact, most of the people you find them making this is just because of poverty culture. And that is, sometimes it's even in self-imposed poverty. I'm a lecturer in the university. I'm paid a certain amount of money. I also go into farm. I have a lot of farm. I farm out a lot to make sure. I even do mechanic work, carry cars, repair them to go and get money to eat, so that I don't depend on anybody. I don't allow this concept of poverty culture to take over me, and that poverty culture is a problem.
I think we have a caller. Sorry to cut you. Hello, good evening. Hello, good evening. Well, please do well to call us back. We'd like to get your perspective on the appeal court verdict. Please go on.
So you see, the poverty culture is killing us. We are living in that kind of a context. Poverty all over the place. We don't even have what to eat. But if you know that you're working with government, for example, there's no how government money, when you work under somebody, that money is to make you so that you can continue working for the person. But when you work under somebody, you learn to work for yourself. I gave example. I'm a professor, but I also go into cares.
Okay, let's speak with. Okay, good evening.
Man of God.
Okay, man of God, please go ahead with your contribution.
Hello?
Go ahead, we can hear you.
Yeah, my name is Man of God. Hello?
Well, man of God, if you call us or any other caller, kindly move away from your television set. More importantly, you can turn down the volume. That way we can hear each other. Please go ahead.
So you discover that you have to be diverse in your approach to life. You don't just depend on one aspect of life. Because when you are working for people, learn to work for yourself. And that's what our people don't have. That's why we have this problem. We work for others. We don't work for ourselves. And then we also don't prioritize issues. We know what? You get money today, he buys the best car. He gets money today, he doesn't even have money to even sustain the car. But he buys it.
Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for calling. What's your name?
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Evening. Go ahead with your contribution, please.
Yeah, I'm Emeka calling from the Republic.
Okay, Emeka, thank you for calling.
I appreciate the speaker there. The speaker knows what he's doing. That is the poverty culture they are using to divide Nigeria. That's the only thing they use. See, the general election is due to the make people to be poor, so that if they give money, they will. In short, let me tell you the truth. Nigeria, there's nothing like election. That is selection. How can you say a candidate is not qualified? A candidate that have already succeeded in primary election. The officers of the party will sign before they will register the person to the INEC. The INEC will brought the photo of the person or the party in order to show that that person is qualified. Then you show that that person have no, what did they call them, no structure. Somebody have no structure. How can they do primary election in APC, in PDP, before that person has been selected? They do this thing, campaign. That person has already campaigned for many months before the election. You said the person has no structure. They are doing selection. Let them select what they want. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Emeka, calling from Benin Republic. We appreciate your contribution. You just had him.
I agree with him. We are doing selection in the election based on the fact that, okay, we selected you, you don't want to be part of it. By nature, election is all about selection, because why? Okay, the party decide and say, okay, if there are 2 people, 3 people select, among which one? But we are the ones that selected. But then in this situation, they say, okay, now, there should be no party again, because, okay, look at it now. In Plateau said, which other formidable party is there? PDP is a formidable party. APC said you don't exist. So what happened? We've become a one state. One party state. Labour is not here. There's no Labour in Plateau. So APC is saying we are the only ones that you rule Plateau.
Now,
All right, let's speak with this caller. Hello, good evening.
Hello?
Good evening.
Are you hearing me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead with your contribution.
Yeah. Good evening. Okay. I think the answer for this problem is that we should look into the amount of money paid to the political office holders. These are the key problem in this country, Nigeria. We make that office to be too lucrative. And that is why everybody want to make it a do or die affair. Okay?
All right. Thank you so much for your contribution.
If we can reduce the salaries of the governors, of presidents, and even the senators, okay, to make it like a university professor, nobody will want to die. Nobody will want to kill themselves because they want to win the election.
Thank you so much for your contribution. Please, when you call us, kindly move from your TV set. You just had a suggestion about
No, I agree what he said. I have said this before. I remember there was time I gave a talk at the National Assembly, and I was at the United Nations to give a talk. And what I told them was that why we have problem in Nigeria is because the political class is given, especially the legislators, they are given too much money. So it's in reality, wherever there is resources, there's competition. And when there's competition, there's conflict. The whole thing is that these people who are competing to go and rule Plateau, they're not even competing.
Hello?
All right, let's speak with this caller. Sorry to cut you. Hello, good evening.
Hello?
Good evening.
Yes. Good evening.
Please move from your television and make your contribution.
Hello?
We can hear you. Go ahead.
Yes, I'm not close by now. Now, Professor Elias has just said, my contribution here is this. That honestly speaking, I quite agree with you. You see, that if you watch the presentation that took place in Plateau State, the APC, I know very well that the agreed parties, like Professor Theodore, they walked out of the primary. There was not even primary. I watched it. The documents are there. The video clips are there. So this very issue of this one that they're saying that PDP doesn't have a structure in Plateau State, it's a lie. INEC testified to it that yes, they conducted election and they were supervised by INEC, and they did, as like Professor Elias pointed out, they did not point that very issue before. It was after the election they are now bringing the issue with flimsy excuses. Honestly speaking, like he rightly said, this thing is tilting to anarchy. Because if care is not taken when war breaks out in Nigeria, we will not have peace to continue. That's the truth. So it is my plea, sir, that the government of the day, President Bola Tinubu, should do the right thing, because this is the test of his integrity. If actually he said that he has come to work for Nigeria, what is happening, especially what Gabdi said, that so-called Gabdi that said that,
please, there's no need for name calling.
He know who he has, who will meet here. You mean, look at, these are clear cases that they're supposed to take him. And he's representing people there. He says a representative that he knows he's banging on who he know. Please, let us take this also on this thing, and the Lord will help us in Jesus' name.
Amen. Thank you so much. We really appreciate your contribution. A lot of accusations, a lot of fingers being pointed. In fact, some people say there's an attempt for one-party system, while
Of
some
course.
people are even pointing hand at the judiciary. Some people are alleging he who pays the piper dictates the tune. Some people are faulting even the recruitment process of the Independent National Electoral Commission, like electoral officers, and even the judges that have been.
Yeah.
So all of the are concerns that people have actually raised. I would just like you to talk about that as
The
well.
whole thing is the fact that, you know, it is a reality that these things have been happening before. But the intensity of it has increased now.
I'm
Well, we
really
have
happy
another
about the
caller. Sorry
discussion
to
going
cut
on.
you.
And the professor has said everything all. To be sincere, he said the truth. Why is it that there are issues on ground? INEC did not stop them as PDP from contesting until after election. They should have told them from the word go they were not qualified because they didn't conduct primaries as they said. That is one. Then number two, we are also aware that there are issues about election, and election is a process. When I was trying to search and look at what those processes are, they said from registration of parties, conduction of primaries, and then presenting candidates for elections. Then they said the final process of the election is the tribunal. And then if they did not tackle those issues from the beginning, and they are using this now at the tribunal to conclude, saying that it's also a process and that's the final process of election, we don't understand what they're looking for. But the justice should be done from the word go. And I really appreciate what the professor said. The blame goes to PDP, goes to INEC, goes to everybody that's supposed to have shared blame. I really appreciate that
Thank you so
discussion
much.
because professor is not biased in his discussion.
Thank you so much. We appreciate
we follow-
it. Please go ahead.
So what I'm saying is that the whole thing is the fact that these things have happened before, but it's now on a greater proportion. What should have happened is that, okay, what happened before you should have corrected at this level. But you see, the thing is that we are allowing emotive people who have been able to catch a little cover in their hand to run the state. And this is exactly what's happening. So when serious-minded people will come now, they will react against it. The reaction may be not necessarily because of anything, but because the person that is coming on ground may be having something that he wants to achieve in trying to make sure that the state moves forward. And because he will not be putting money into the hands of people like the others have been doing before, they want to react against that. And that could also happen even with the PDP. The fact is that maybe the people that actually, the so-called aggrieved party in the PDP, did the same thing. They did that because they are afraid that money will not be pushed to their hands. And that's the whole issue, is because we don't have a plan. The poverty culture has eaten into our fabric, our social fabric, so badly in Plateau State. Especially, and in our case, we call it, the Hausa will say, Kazana Kwana de Nyingwa Kandemi, meaning that we have a lot to produce in this state. But people who come from somewhere else and they get it, and we're sitting down here with poverty, and all we want is to be given arms, handed and over. And this arms is what is creating these issues. Because at the end of the day, when you are able to talk in a very wrong way, of course, you are giving money. You are giving money for lying. You are giving money for this. So poverty culture eats up even those who are supposed to be so-called proponents of the confusion. They are based on poverty culture. That's why they are doing it. They are doing it to get money from other places. And at the end of the day, the poverty eats them up. Because money that you do not get, like I read something today, Elon Musk said it. He said that his daughter will not marry a poor man. We were asking, who is a poor man? He said the man that has money and does not have any way of revolving the money. You might have money. Poverty to him is not because you have money, but a way of revolving it. He gave an example. He said, if you win a lottery of $10 million, in 5 years' time, a lot of these lottery winners have become broken. So we have no capacity of revolving the little we have. And so we have to keep lying and lying and lying for us to be given money. Those who are making those claims, we discover that it's still the poverty culture is holding them. They come from very poor background like me here now. I came from a very poor background. There's no lie in that. But I don't intend to stay there. I intend to work hard to get and then revolve whatever I have. You know, so this is the whole thing. Poverty culture is the first thing. And again, we should look at Plateau State on the premises of its capacity to not only produce, but also incite. Because Plateau State, I remember, let me tell you something. What happened in Plateau State revolves around the country. When the main market here in Plateau State was destroyed, I went for a program in the border of Nigeria with Plateau. And some women were singing and they were crying that the Plateau State market was destroyed. So you think that is how emotive Plateau State Jos market is to them. To them, it was a ripple of life. So whatever happens in Plateau is going to touch the whole country. And that is where the problem is. The state has to be careful in the way it deals with the issue of Plateau State. They have to also make sure that Plateau has stability. Because if you dare to allow Plateau to grow into any form of conflict, it will affect the whole of country.
Thank you so much, Professor Elias Nankap Lamle, for your perspective and analysis on the appeal court's verdict. We really appreciate your time on National Talk.
Thank you very much.
And to our viewers out there, thank you so much for staying with us on this edition of National Talk. Time is not on our side, but we do plead that the Supreme Court will apply due diligence in all of these judgments, because peace, fairness, justice is actually sacrosanct. Democracy is the theory that the common people know what they want and deserve to get it real good and hard. Until we come your way next time, my name is Joyce Jakada.